So we're going to be going over the OmegaRecruit today, talking about COB specifically. That is going to be the topic of our conversation today. My name is Sarah Beth Russell. I'm going to be presenting today, and then my co-host with me is Hannah. So in the question section, she'll be the one answering any of your questions while we go through the webinar, and then at the end we'll have Q&A as well. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Hannah really quick, and she's going to give us just a little bit of information about OmegaFi.
Thank you, Sarah Beth. So for more than 30 years, OmegaFi has provided technology solutions to help our customers manage their finances, streamline their operations, recruit new members, and communicate with their members. Whether it's working with 57 different headquarters or local chapters, house corporations, IFC, and Pan-Hellenic councils, also alumni associations across more than 650 campuses, we remain the industry leader when it comes to technology in the fraternity and sorority community. Based out of Columbus, Georgia, we've securely processed more than $4 billion since 1992, and we process about $1.1 million per day for our clients. We're also deeply committed to serving, promoting, and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience. We aim to make raving fans with every individual or group we work with by reaching, innovating, and acting with agility. We challenge ourselves to dream big every day and help others achieve their own dreams as well. To say we're passionate about what we do is an understatement, and it's this passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so they can focus on their mission and having fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hannah. So we'll go ahead and get started today with looking at our agenda. So like I said, today we're going to be going over different ways your chapter can use OmegaRecruit for continuous open bidding or COB. If you're currently in COB, or if you think that you may have some directly following recruitment or some in this spring, then hopefully this will just give you some ideas of how you can use OmegaRecruit to make that process go smoothly. So first, we're going to talk about how to update your admin users. We're going to go over reports and master reset with the manual one in the system, and then we'll look at how you can set up your rounds for COB, and then we'll look at your P&M list, the tools that are involved on that page that can help you with COB type recruitment, and then we'll have Q&A. I will go ahead and go over though to our OmegaRecruit system here. So looking at this screen, we can see that from this, it looks like we still have data from regular recruitment. So we're going to start with that and kind of see where we need to go from here before we can start over. We're first going to look at how you can update your admin users. So over here on the left side, you can go to your users, and then you'll go to your user list. Typically, this will be how you do that. If your new officer maybe is not already a user, like if they're a newer user and they haven't been added to the system yet, you may have to go to the add users and then make them an admin after you add them. But for the most part, they should be in your user list if they're currently a sister who voted during recruitment. Now, I know not everybody will necessarily need to update their admins at this point, but it is important to make sure you do for a few different reasons. So, if you don't have any change between now and spring, you may not need to do it, but if there is a change in admin before fall, so between spring and fall, then you definitely want to make sure you do that. We have our yearly master reset that happens, which is when in our system we do a entire master reset on OmegaRecruit, and all of your users will come out of this system, but admins will remain. So if you want to make sure the correct people have access to the system come fall, you want to make sure that whoever is going to be the admin in the fall has access to the system. And same with spring. If you are going to be doing COB during spring and you want to make sure that with officer changes that they will have access, you might want to go ahead and do that now, especially if the current admin is going to be graduating and not going to be able to give them access come next semester. So this is where you would do that. We're looking at our members here. All of these currently are admins, but you would just select this here. And if you need to remove admin access from the current admin, you can do that as well by just unclicking the box. So that is how you're going to get them set up. And once you do that, they can have access to the system. Now, we're going to look at kind of all the information that you can pull from the system before you do a manual master reset so we can get set up for COB. So we're going to look through all the reporting. Depending on how you want to do that. You may want to add your admin after you pull all the reporting and do your master reset, or you can add them before, pull all the data, however you're wanting to do it. But we're going to go ahead and look at the different reports that we have. Going to the P&M dropdown here, you can see a few different things here. We have this comments section right here. This is one type of report. This is going to pull all the comments that came in during recruitment. We do have in our report section a more broken down version of the comments report where you can do that by round and divide it up. But we do have this one here that will just pull all of those for you. And we have our Recs report as well. So if any recommendations you want to save, you need to export those, you can do that here. If you guys use that form, that would be for any of your P&Ms to submit a recommendation coming from someone else that would put that in before recruitment typically. So you can pull those. And then the biggest section is going to be this report section here, again, in that same drop down. So we have a few different reports we can look at here. You have your P&M report. So this is going to pull any P&Ms that you may have within the system, depending on what your COB is going to look like. If you're going into that right after formal recruitment, you may need some of that data still, especially if maybe some of the girls who are eligible for COB initially started out in formal recruitment and weren't able to complete it, but they are eligible for continuous open bidding. You may need whatever information from that. So if you want to keep all of that or use that after you master reset, pulling the P&Ms and their votes in these reports, that's why that's going to be important. So again, this is the P&M. You can divide that up and include comments in that. If you want to do only actives, that's probably not going to be the best idea for this since most of them are probably in an inactive status if they are eligible for COB. So it's best to just pull all of them here. And then you have your votes report. Again, you can divvy this up kind of. I would suggest not doing the only actives, and then you can include the actual vote values as well as dividing it up by each round. And then you can choose to either have that sorted by user or P&M. So with that, if you wanted it sorted by user, you would see whatever sister's name and then who they voted on and what those votes were. If you did it by P&M, you would see the P&M's individual name and then what all their votes were and by which sister. And then this is the other comments report where you can break that down by round rather than just having it all together. And you can include these different options of having the P&M included on that as well as the timestamp of when they did that. Probably won't use the slideshow one that's typically used before recruitment, but if you want to pull it, you can do that here. And then we have our voter distribution. If you guys like to check your voting trends after recruitment, see how people were voting, see kind of like the commonalities, if a lot of people were voting a certain way, anything like that, you can look at that through your voter distribution and you can pull this. Again, you can divide it up by rounds or you can do it by all rounds and pull it in PDF or Excel. And then we have our voter audit report. This is going to be where you can look at any votes that were changed during the recruitment process. So if any votes had to be updated, this report will show any changes that were made, who made the change, what the original vote was, what the vote was changed to, what P&M that was, all of that. These are all of our reports pretty much. Like I said, it's important to pull that data just in case you need to use it if you review any of that after recruitment. And again, if you have any ladies that are going to be eligible for COB that may have started out in formal recruitment, you can have that information for them. So now that we've pulled the reporting, we're going to go ahead and do our master reset. We're going to go to the chapter tab here on the left-hand side. From here, we'll go all the way over to master reset. And you're going to see this screen here. It has a few different warnings on it. This is going to effectively clear the system of all your data that's in here. You will still have your users. Unlike the master reset we do in spring that clears everybody but the admins, this will still leave your users so you won't have to re-add them. This is just going to get rid of all the P&Ms from fall and any comments, votes, anything like that, and set those system back before recruitment happened so you can set it up for your next recruitment event. So we're going to go ahead and submit that. When you're doing master reset, just make sure you have pulled everything before you do it, because once the master reset is done, you can't get that information back. Kind of tells that here, so you'll get the, are you sure you want to apply the master reset? And if you are, then you'll hit reset and it will put everything back to where it was before. And this is where we can kind of start to set out how we're going to do COB. So we're going to first go to edit chapter. You'll just need to put in dates. Depending on how you want to do it, you can pick just a start date and far enough out if you don't know when COB is going to end, and then just save that accordingly. And then we'll go over to the edit rounds tabs here. So there's a few different ways that you can set up the rounds. A disclaimer I want to say with this is if you are with a specific organization that maybe has certain configurations, make sure you check out your configuration page to see how those votes are calculated. So that's going to be on your left-hand side here where it says configuration. If you have a specific configuration, you'll see your Greek letters. Make sure that if different rounds are calculated different ways, this may not be the best setup for you. You may have a different way you're going to need to set that up, but this is for in general. If your rounds are typically all calculated the same way, this is a way that you can set this up to work for you. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to add 3 rounds here. You can do this however. There's a few different ways we suggest. You can do it by month. So if it's over a period of time, especially like in spring, maybe it starts in February and ends in like April, and you want to put in your 3 months there, and you're having like a get together or meet up every single month, you could do it that way. I'm going to set this up by number of interactions. Typically you need at least 2 interaction points with a P&M in order to extend them a bid. So we're going to set it up that way. And just one thing to keep in mind for this, your members can only submit 1 vote per round. So keep that in mind when setting it up. If members are going to need more than 3 votes, then you'll have to set up another round for that if they have like more than 3 interactions. But this should be good to go. We'll just say, so we'll just relabel them. You can use the pencil icon. And this does have the preference round here, but we'll just ignore that for this. This can just be our different interactions. And typically you're going to want to do open voting for this, just because you're not going to have like the party set up and there's going to be limited number of P&Ms. So you're not going to need party set up. So you'll just do open voting. That way, when your members are going in to vote, they'll just see all the P&Ms that are available based on how you uploaded them. So we'll go ahead and hit save here. And then we'll go over to the P&M list. This is typically your setup page. We've already done step 1 with this. Here we can do step 2, or under the P&M list, you can go to upload P&Ms, either way. So we'll get some P&Ms uploaded. That green box is going to let you know they are good to go. We do have some detailed instructions and examples. So if you've already gone through formal recruitment, you're probably familiar with this, but these are the different headers that you can have there. You don't need to have all of these. So if you have a pared down version of that with COB or just in general, you just want to have certain information. All that's required is the first, last name, and the MIN, and then all the rest is just extra beneficial information for you guys. So we've uploaded our P&Ms, and so if we go back to the P&M list and close this, we see all of our P&Ms in here. With these, when you upload those P&Ms, if you have any that, again, started out in formal recruitment and you want to add their information from previously, I know you can count that as a particular interaction. You can go look at your data and put that in accordingly. If not, you don't have to. Now, I know with continuous open bidding, a lot of times P&Ms kind of come in irregularly. You may not have a particular upload for that. So a good way that you can kind of keep track of that is maybe have a separate Excel sheet where you keep your P&Ms as they come in, and you can upload that anytime a new P&M comes in. If you go back to the upload page and you re-upload it, it's not going to write over the old P&Ms that are already in the system. It will just add the new one. So you keep that separate just to, as they're added, continue to add them in the system, or you can manually add them using the add P&M. And then that way, again, you would just be a little more manual process. You can fill out the information and add them. Either way, I would definitely suggest doing the running list. That's going to be easiest in terms of if you continuously have P&Ms that are popping up that you need to put into the system. One other thing I would like to mention, you have to have this MIN here, which is just typically in formal recruitment, that's a number that's assigned by the systems. So if you use like ICS or Campus Director, the system will assign that. That's their like individual indicator. If you're doing an upload, you're not going to really have specific MINs. You can just number those. So like starting out with one and go down the line. Typically this just helps if some people have the same name or something like that. This is the way to identify them as a separate user. So you do still have to have the MIN, but you can just, again, number that one through however many P&Ms come through. So once your P&Ms are in, you can kind of start voting from here. Again, if you have votes or information you want to put in from formal recruitment, you can pull that and enter it into the system, or you can have them resubmit it by opening your voting. So under the chapter tab, if we go back to that, we can go ahead and open for interaction 1. With this, you're probably going to have a lot more switching in between the rounds. Sometimes you may be on interaction 3 and you need to go back to interaction 1 if somebody who has never met a P&M before and it's their first interaction and that's their first vote on them, if you want to, or you can keep it in interaction 3 and they just vote in that particular section. Again, it's all dependent on how you're wanting to do that. So looking at the P&M list, we're going to look at some ways that you can kind of organize this to best benefit you. Looking at this little hamburger menu here, it's up in the right-hand corner. When we click on that, we're going to select some different columns that we can pull in that are going to be really great to help assist. And we'll get rid of some of these other ones so we can see them better. You're not going to need party. You do want to make sure you have your overall still, and then any voting rounds, you want to make sure they're pulling in so you can see the votes. You're going to want to make sure you have tags and admin notes. Those are going to be the most helpful for what we're going to look at today. So looking at this now, we have like a more cleaned up version of this just for what we're looking at. Again, you can pull in as many of those columns as you want, but for the admin notes and the tags, these are what you can use to really organize your P&Ms. So any notes you may want to put in on the P&M while you're making decisions, you can double click into that box and put that information in there, whether it be started in formal recruitment or is in a class with a sister, anything like that. Whatever the point of contact is, you can put it in there, or whatever other notes you may need to make. And you can also do tags as well. So the way you can do tags is if you right click, you can edit your tag. If I'm doing that on Shelby, I can add tags for her. So let's say maybe you guys had like a coffee meetup and she was one of the P&Ms that showed up to that. You could just put that as well, but maybe she was also a P&M that came through formal originally, and it will add those. If you put the comma, then you can just hit done and it will pull those tags into here. So you can kind of make those tags whatever you're wanting. You can put them as like what the interaction exactly was. Depending on how you're wanting to divide that up, admin notes could be a little more specific, but these tags are just general, and you can make as many tags as you want. Again, you can kind of edit those to be best for what your chapter is going to need on there. After doing that, we want to look at statuses. So with continuous open bidding, it's really important to keep your statuses updated as P&Ms are active, recruited, or released from selection. That's going to give you the best representation of like what's going on, where you're at in the process, and where that P&M is at. So for your statuses, you can also do the right click here and change status. Just make sure you're on the P&M you're wanting to do that for. You can also do it over by their name as well if that's more helpful. And then you can do change status, and you can do that with any of these statuses. So depending, let's say you have already extended a bid to Shelby and she's been recruited, you can put that in. Let's say Caroline let you guys know that she actually just doesn't have the bandwidth to join, and so you can mark her as released, regret, however you're wanting to do that. Those are both like inactive statuses, and that way they'll change colors. You'll kind of see where they're at in the process, and then you can see who all you have left that could possibly be extended a bit. So again, that's going to be important to keep up with pretty regularly as they are going through the process and their status changes. With those different things there, that's pretty much the gist of like what all can help you with that. Voting is going to look the same. So once you've gone to that chapter tab and we looked at the drop down here and you've opened your voting, once you've done that, your members will just be able to go to the vote tab here and submit their votes accordingly. And you can also still pull all the same reporting if there's anything you need while going through this process. Like if you're wanting to do a checkpoint in the middle and just pull everything, you can look at those reports. You can also pull your P&M list from here as well. It'll pull all the information that's within the list, even the columns that aren't showing. It'll pull all that information so you can see it, as well as the votes. So as votes come in, they're going to go into these particular rounds. And you can also still use your matching tool. This is going to be a little different than formal recruitment, but you can still use like recommendations. So as your members are putting in votes, if they think that Taylor really needs to talk to the P&M Claire, then they can vote for Claire and then on the ballot put in the recommendation for the sister. They also have the ability on their profile to do that as well, but you can kind of pull all of these out. If you're not wanting to use that, just look at your recommendations. You wouldn't have to do anything with these. This is the only box you're looking at, and put these matches at however you're wanting and then generate your matches, and you can look at all the different recommendations that come in. So that way you can kind of figure out how you can get those sisters specifically to talk to those P&Ms. The great thing about continuous open bidding, you have a lot more opportunity for more sisters to be able to talk to more P&Ms than you would during formal recruitment. Typically, formal recruitment, you only have like a small number of P&Ms that sisters might actually talk to. This way you have the ability for, one P&M may actually talk to 20 or so of your sisters during continuous open bidding. So this is a really great way to see who they need to talk to and get more votes in if that's what you're needing to make your selections. So that is pretty much all we're going to go over today. I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint and put up our contact information for support. While I'm doing that, Hannah, we'll go ahead and start Q&A. Have there been any questions that have come in?
Yeah, let me pull the questions back up. There was a couple that came through. So one of them was just asking, I think they just wanted clarification that when they do master reset, they're asking if it's going to get rid of their users. But like you said, or if you want to show them the screen again, just explaining which users will be removed during that master reset and which ones get a stay.
Yeah, so when you're doing your master reset, this one is a manual master reset that your chapter does, not like the one that we do in the spring. That one you won't have to do anything for it, like a Megafy system will run that. So when you're doing this, you'll come to this page specifically and you have to hit the button for it to actually do the master reset. And here you can kind of read through, this is everything that's going to change. So any P&Ms that you had within the system, they'll be removed. Any votes or comments that were on them, they'll be deleted. And then your system will be set back to before recruitment. All your rounds will be gone, anything like that. You'll still have your user list. So any users, whether admin or not, they will still be within the system. So that's what your master reset will do.
Okay, perfect. And then we have one more question. It's a really good question. Actually, they're saying, what can they do or how should they add a user's info that maybe started in formal recruitment but is now eligible for COB? If they wanted to use that, could they carry information over, or what do you recommend they do for those members that went through formal recruitment and then are now going to be in COB?
Yeah, let me pull up an actual account I can vote on, and I can show you as an admin, they also have the option to add a vote in. So just depending on what you're wanting, when you pull the information, you'll have all that when you're doing your upload for your P&Ms, you'll be able to pull that in, like just put it in your Excel document or manually add them back. However you're wanting to look at it, you have all that information there. Whereas with all your other P&Ms that come through, you may have to get that information from the P&M depending on how your continuous open bidding is at your school. If you're wanting to adjust votes, as an admin, you can go to users and your user list, and then you'll add your votes based on which sister voted for a P&M. So If Amanda made the vote, I will then click on her name, and from here I can go to add votes. Now with this, you'll want to make sure that on your chapter tab, your round for whatever vote round you're trying to put in, so if this is like interaction 1, you would need to make sure that that particular round is open, and then you'll be able to put in a vote for that round. So for this example, if we want to put a vote in for Afton that Amanda made, we have from that Excel information we pulled from formal recruitment, then we can look at that, see what Amanda voted, choose that for the ballot, and then submit that vote, and it'll let you know that that vote was cast. And then
okay, perfect. I think that answers the questions. They can just carry over that like interaction 1, put in the votes, and then going forward they would vote like normal.
Yes.
That's all the questions I have so far that have come through. So I think they can just go ahead and start taking this information. I'll let you know if one pops up right before the end.
Okay. Up on the screen, we just have the information for our support team. So if at any point you do have questions, you can email recruitment_support@omegafy.com. I know for any of you that have done formal recruitment, it's 24/7, but after recruitment ends, after that season, you'll just have regular business hours. So I just want to make sure that you guys know that's regular business hours after formal recruitment ends is when we're stopping that 24/7 support. But another way that you might be able to look at things is going to the Help Me button here. You can go to Get Help, and when you click on that, it'll take you to our Help Center where we have a bunch of different articles. So if you have a question, you can type into the search. There is a whole section on COB information that you can go through. Any questions you may have, you can look at that, or just any general questions, whatever you may have a question on, you can type that in and get help there. And then if your question still isn't answered, you can submit a request here. Also, just make sure you're filling all this information out fully, especially what product. Make sure you're putting OmegaRecruit so that way it goes to the correct place for those people to be able to assist you. Put all your information in. The more information you put in, the better we can help you guys out. But I think that is everything. If we don't have any more questions, then I'm going to leave this up for a second and we'll go ahead and conclude today's webinar.